June 7th, 1943, 11:03 a.m. Heinrich Himmler's hands tremble as he reads a single sentence that will industrialize genocide. Dr. Karl Klauberg, a celebrated gynecologist, promises to sterilize 1,000 women per day with a single cervical injection. No surgery, no anesthesia, just a syringe. The typewriter in the corner clacks like a countdown, a metronome of industrialized murder. The desk lamp flickers. Medicine invented to save lives has been weaponized to erase them. The Holocaust wasn't just committed by soldiers, it was executed by doctors. What happens when the oath to heal becomes a license to destroy? The rot doesn't start at Auschwitz. It starts in German hospitals a decade earlier. In 1933, Adolf Hitler rises to power. Within months, Mein Kampf transforms from fringe manifesto into medical doctrine. Physicians who once healed now stand at the forefront of racial purification. University lecture halls echo with new teachings, genetics twisted into pseudoscience, biology weaponized into ideology. Medical students are taught that compassion for the unfit is weakness, that eliminating inferior bloodlines is scientific duty. The first targets children. Mixed-race kids born to German mothers and African soldiers labeled Rhineland bastards are identified through school records and census data. They're dragged from classrooms into operating rooms. No warning, no explanation. Parents return home to find their children gone, taken by men in white coats with official papers. Surgeons sterilize them without consent, without anesthesia, without mercy. 400 children mutilated in the name of racial hygiene. Some are as young as 6. The operations are brutal scalpels cutting through young flesh organs, removed or destroyed wounds sutured hastily. Recovery wards fill with children crying for mothers who aren't allowed to visit. Medical journals publish the results as racial hygiene research. Colleagues across Germany read with clinical interest. Conferences present the data. No one objects. No one resigns. The medical establishment remains silent, complicit through inaction. Hospitals become assembly lines of forced mutilation. Appointment schedules fill with coded entries. Operating rooms run overtime. Surgical waste bins overflow. The Hippocratic Oath. First do no harm crumbles into dust, replaced by a new creed. The health of the Volk supersedes individual suffering. By 1939, the machinery accelerates. The T4 euthanasia program launches with bureaucratic precision. Gray buses with blacked-out windows roll through German streets in the early morning hours. Neighbors peek through curtains but say nothing. Mentally ill patients are told they're being transferred to better facilities, newer buildings, improved care, specialized treatment. Families receive official letters stamped with government seals, reassuring them their loved ones will receive excellent attention. They arrive at sanitariums where shower rooms conceal gas valves hidden behind false fixtures. The rooms are designed to look legitimate: tile walls, drain grates, benches, even soap dispensers. Patients undress confused but compliant. Doors lock from the outside with heavy bolts. Then carbon monoxide hisses through false drains, colorless and odorless. 70,000 people murdered in 2 years. Nurses hold down struggling victims who realize too late what's happening. Doctors sign death certificates by the hundreds: pneumonia, heart failure, appendicitis, stroke. All lies. All fabricated diagnoses to conceal systematic murder. Families receive urns of ashes weeks later. They don't know the ashes are often mixed, multiple victims cremated together because separating remains wastes fuel and time. Some families grow suspicious. Death rates spike impossibly. Healthy patients sent away return as ashes within days. Church leaders begin asking questions. Bishops write protest letters. Relatives demand investigations. But the killing continues quieter, more carefully documented, more efficiently organized. Storm clouds gather over Nuremberg rallies where thousands raise their arms in unified salute. Doctors in white coats stand beside SS officers in black uniforms on reviewing stands. Banners proclaim the glory of racial purity. T4 buses rumble past silent witnesses who avert their eyes. Inside psychiatric hospitals, shadowed corridors flicker under dying fluorescent lights that hum and buzz. Doctors sit in dim offices, stamping forms, signing away lives with mechanical efficiency, 20 signatures per hour, 100 per day, thousands per month. This is the perfection of industrialized killing, tested on the disabled, refined on the unwanted, documented in triplicate. Every death is recorded, every procedure logged, every statistic compiled. Hospitals slowly transform into bureaucratic engines of extermination, preparing the ideological foundation for something far worse. By 1942, Auschwitz is under construction in occupied Poland. But it's not improvised, it's engineered with German precision. Blueprints show surgical blocks positioned near crematoria for efficiency, sterilization units with specialized equipment, laboratories with refrigeration for specimen storage. The camp layout itself reveals intent. This will be the apex of a decade-long biological war, the culmination of everything learned from sterilizing children and gassing the mentally ill. The architects are ready. The techniques are proven. The moral barriers have been demolished. The world doesn't know it yet, but the Holocaust will be executed with more than bullets and gas. It will be carried out with scalpels, syringes, and medical precision by men who once swore to heal. But who were the architects of this medical nightmare? 3 men walk through Auschwitz's gates in 1943. Their white coats are immaculate, their credentials impeccable. Their hands will execute horrors that redefine human evil. Dr. Josef Mengele, SS Hauptsturmführer. Age 32. He earned his doctorate studying cleft palates, legitimate science twisted into obsession. Now he stands on Auschwitz's arrival ramp, baton in hand, whistling Wagnerian opera as cattle cars unload their human cargo. Left, right, gas chamber, labor. His eyes scan desperately for one thing: twins. Mengele believes twins hold the genetic key to mass-producing Aryan children. Unlock their biology and Germany can breed a master race like livestock. His mind races with visions of genetic engineering, blood transfusions between siblings, eye color mutations, synchronized dissections for comparative data. Prisoners will call him the Angel of Death. He calls himself a pioneer. Dr. Karl Klauberg arrives with celebrity status intact. Before the war, he was Germany's most celebrated gynecologist, director of a prestigious fertility clinic, published researcher. Women traveled across Europe seeking his hormone treatments for infertility. Now at Auschwitz, he redirects that expertise toward a singular goal: industrial sterilization of inferior races. His method is elegant in its cruelty: inject caustic chemicals directly into the uterus to scar the fallopian tube shut. No surgery, no recovery time, just injection inflammation, permanent sterility. He writes to Himmler with the confidence of a salesman: 1,000 women per day per doctor. His vision isn't just experimentation, it's genocide, through gynecology reshaping Europe's population one injection at a time. Dr. Horst Schumann is the quiet one, the T4 veteran. He perfected gas chamber procedures on 70,000 mentally ill patients. He knows how long it takes carbon monoxide to kill. He's calculated optimal room sizes, ventilation rates, body disposal logistics. At Auschwitz, he pivots to a new challenge: X-ray sterilization. He installs Siemens radiation units and begins reducing human reproductive organs to targets. His hypothesis: sustained radiation can destroy fertility without immediate death. Men and women become experimental subjects. Genitals positioned between plates. Machines whirring for 8, 10, 15 minutes. Flesh burns from the inside. Ovaries cook, testes necrotize. Schumann adjusts dosages and takes meticulous notes. These aren't rogue sadists operating in shadows. They're credentialed physicians executing official SS policy, personally endorsed by Heinrich Himmler and supported by the highest levels of Nazi command. Their work is documented in official reports. Funded through government budgets, celebrated within the SS Medical Corps as cutting-edge research. Some young SS medics occasionally look away during procedures. They're new recruits, 18, 19 years old, who join the medical corps believing in healing, in service in the nobility of medicine. Now they stand in operating rooms watching doctors torture prisoners in the name of science. They hold down struggling victims. They hand instruments to physicians conducting experiments. They mop blood from floors and carry bodies to crematoria. They cannot reconcile the Hippocratic Oath with what they witness daily. Some request transfers. Others drink heavily to numb the cognitive dissonance. A few attempt to help prisoners secretly extra bread warnings about selection's moments of human kindness in an inhuman system. But orders are orders. Discipline is absolute. Silence is complicity. And complicity is survival. Sepia photographs show their faces intelligent, educated, disturbingly ordinary. Mengele with his slight smile. Klauberg serious and professional. Schumann expressionless behind round spectacles. They could be professors, hospital administrators, family doctors. Medical instruments glint under artificial light in Block 10 scalpels, arranged on trays, syringes lined in precise rows, forceps hanging from hooks. Outside the barred windows, soft murmurs drift from prisoners pressed against barbed wire waiting to learn if they'll be selected next. But before Auschwitz becomes the epicenter of medical genocide, earlier failures reveal just how far German medicine has already fallen. Before Auschwitz perfects its machinery of death, the experiments stumble through years of brutal trial and error. In 1937, Berlin, a pediatric hospital operating room. A 7-year-old boy, half German, half African, is strapped to a surgical table. He doesn't understand why. His mother wasn't consulted. No consent form exists. A surgeon makes the first incision for castration. The boy screams. The procedure is botched, hemorrhaging infection, weeks of agony. He's one of 400 mixed-race children surgically mutilated under the Rhineland sterilization program. Medical journals publish the results as racial hygiene research. Colleagues read with clinical interest. No one objects. Witnesses whisper in hospital corridors, doctors couldn't possibly be doing this. But they are, and it gets worse. In 1940, Hadamar Psychiatric Hospital. The T4 program is in full operation. Nurses receive a shipment of patients in a gray bus with blacked-out windows. The patients are told they're being transferred for better care. Instead, they're led into a basement room disguised as a shower. The door locks. Gas hisses through vents. 70 people die in 20 minutes. Their bodies are burned. Families receive urns of ashes, often mixed remains from multiple victims, because the crematorium operators can't be bothered to separate them. And then comes the celebration. August 1941. The staff at Hadamar gathers in the facility's cafeteria. Beer flows. Bratwurst sizzles. They're celebrating their 10,000th murder. A doctor raises his glass and toasts. The cleansing of the gene pool. Nurses laugh. Photographs capture the moment: smiling faces, champagne bottles, a banner hanging on the wall marking the milestone. The banality of evil crystallizes in that single image. Back in surgical wards across Germany, the failures pile up. Botched castrations leave men bleeding out on tables. Experimental tubal ligations cause septic infections. Women die screaming from peritonitis. Radiation experiments burn through abdominal walls. The procedures are crude, rushed, documented with bureaucratic indifference. Dim operating rooms lit by single bulbs swaying from drafts. Rain streaks the windows. Blood-soaked gauze piles on metal trays. Muffled thunder rolls outside, mixing with distant screams that no one acknowledges. But the experiments don't stop. They refine, improve, systematize. By 1941, church leaders begin protesting. Families investigate. The T4 program is officially halted, but the expertise doesn't vanish. It migrates. The doctors, nurses, and technicians who perfected industrialized killing are quietly reassigned. The gas chambers are dismantled, crated, and shipped east to Poland. This is the pattern a reversal from ethical practice to ideological perversion, from healing to extermination. German medicine hasn't been hijacked by Nazi ideology. It has willingly surrendered. The evidence is undeniable. The moral collapse is total, and Auschwitz is waiting. In Block 10, that expertise will be unleashed with systematic precision and official approval from the highest levels of the SS. Spring 1943. Auschwitz Block 10 becomes operational. The barracks stands apart from the others' windows boarded shut courtyard shrouded in fog. A hand-painted sign reads, "Medical experiments authorized personnel only." Locked doors. Armed guards. This isn't a hospital wing. It's a laboratory using human beings as raw material. This is no rogue operation. Heinrich Himmler personally authorizes every experiment. The fantasies of racial engineering have official approval, unlimited funding, and an endless supply of victims. The selection begins at the arrival ramp. Mengele stands in his crisp SS uniform as train after train disgorges thousands of prisoners. Families cling together, children cry. He scans the crowd with predatory focus, looking for one thing: identical faces. When he spots twins, his eyes light up. He separates them from their parents with a flick of his baton, left for the twins, right for their mother, to the gas chamber. The children are terrified but confused. They're given better barracks, extra food, toys, chocolate. They think they've been saved. They're being fattened for dissection. Inside Block 10, the true horror begins. Klauberg's sterilization experiments commence with industrial efficiency. Women are dragged from their bunks and strapped to gynecological tables. No explanation, no anesthesia. A syringe appears filled with caustic compound, formalin, silver nitrate, experimental chemicals designed to scar tissue on contact. The needle penetrates the cervix. The injection burns like acid through the uterus. Women scream until their voices shatter. Some faint from shock. Others vomit uncontrollably as their abdomens swell with inflammation, and infection peritonitis setting in within hours. Klauberg stands over them with a stopwatch recording reaction times, inflammation severity, scarring progression. His notebook fills with data. His face remains expressionless. To him, these aren't women. They're test subjects, biological obstacles to be eliminated through chemistry. Down the corridor, Schumann's X-ray room hums with electrical menace. The Siemens radiation units glow with eerie light. Prisoners are forced to stand naked between metal plates positioned at their genitals. The machine powers up with a rising whine. Then it fires. 8 minutes of concentrated radiation. Then 10. Then 15. The burning starts immediately, not on the skin, but deep inside. Ovaries cook. Fallopian tubes disintegrate. Testes necrotize from the inside out. The pain is indescribable. Men collapse, clutching themselves. Women hemorrhage blood running down their legs as internal organs rupture. Schumann adjusts the dials and makes notes. He's calculating the precise dosage, enough radiation to destroy fertility permanently, but not enough to kill immediately. He needs survivors for follow-up examinations. The smell of chemicals hangs thick in the hazy air. Needles glint under harsh surgical lights. Close-ups capture trembling hands, clutching thin blankets, the only comfort in a room designed for torture. The acrid scent of burning flesh mixes with disinfectant. Outside, Block 10 snow begins to fall. Silent, pure, indifferent. The flakes settle on crematorium windows where smoke rises in thick columns. The contrast is unbearable beauty and horror separated by a single pane of glass. Medicine has been inverted. The profession built on mercy has become an instrument of annihilation, and the worst is yet to come. Inside the crematorium laboratories, doctors will execute procedures so monstrous that even hardened SS guards will turn away in disbelief. The experiments escalate beyond measurement, beyond medicine, beyond humanity. Mengele's twin research reaches its horrific zenith in the surgical rooms adjacent to Crematorium 2. Children who believed they were protected, fed chocolate, given toys, allowed to keep their hair, now face systematic torture disguised as science. Blood transfusions between incompatible siblings. Type A into Type B. The reactions are immediate and agonizing: fever, convulsions, bodies rejecting foreign blood as internal organs begin to fail. Mengele watches with clinical fascination, recording every symptom. Lumbar punctures without anesthesia. Needles driven into small spines to extract spinal fluid for comparison studies. Children scream. Some develop meningitis. Others are paralyzed. Then the eye experiments begin. Mengele injects methylene blue dye directly into brown eyes, trying to turn them Aryan blue. The children are held down by nurses as needles penetrate their corneas. The pain is blinding, literally. Infections set in. Eyes cloud over. Vision disappears. Some children go completely blind, crying for mothers who are already dead. In Block 10, Klauberg's victims return from surgery crawling. They can't walk, can't stand. Their abdomens are distended, hard as stone. The injections have caused massive inflammation, fallopian tubes, scarred shut uterine walls, burned internal bleeding. Peritonitis spreads like wildfire, fever, vomiting, septic shock. Some women die within days, their bodies unable to fight the infection. Others survive but are sterilized forever, their reproductive organs destroyed by chemical burns. Klauberg examines each case with satisfaction. His success rate is improving. He's already drafting proposals for 20 simultaneous injection stations, mass sterilization on an industrial scale. Then comes the moment that breaks even the hardened. Late 1944. A prisoner doctor named Miklos Nisli is summoned to the autopsy room. Two small bodies lie on the dissection table, Roma twins boys no older than 7. They were healthy yesterday. Mengele personally brought them candy. Now they're dead. Nisli begins the autopsy. Standard procedure. He makes the Y incision across the chest, opens the thoracic cavity. Then his scalpel freezes mid-cut. Chloroform. Injected directly into the heart. Both boys. Simultaneously. Executed within seconds of each other. Mengele didn't wait for them to die naturally. He murdered them, synchronized their deaths deliberately so their organs could be compared at identical stages of decomposition. The boys weren't sick. They weren't dying. They were killed purely for data symmetry. Nisli's hands tremble. The scalpel slips from his fingers and clatters on the metal table. The sound echoes through the concrete room. The SS assistant standing guard turns away. His face has gone pale. Even he, a man who has watched thousands walk into gas chambers, cannot look at this. The room falls into absolute silence. This is the moment, the perversion of healing into torture so complete that it shocks even the perpetrators. A line has been crossed that shouldn't exist. Surgical lights cast enormous shadows on concrete walls streaked with moisture. The slow zoom captures the frozen scalpel, the small bodies, the trembling hands. Outside the barred window, snow falls quietly on the crematorium courtyard. Somewhere distant, a metal door clangs shut. The sound reverberates like a tomb ceiling. Medicine has become murder. Science has become genocide. And the machinery shows no sign of stopping. Because beyond Auschwitz's barbed wire, the medical apparatus of death is expanding into a corporate industrial system that reaches boardrooms across Germany. The horror metastasizes beyond Auschwitz's barbed wire. Medical genocide becomes corporate business. A letter arrives at Auschwitz administration offices, typed on IG Farben letterhead. The language is bureaucratic, matter-of-fact, chilling in its banality. We request 150 women for pharmaceutical trials. Payment 170 Reichsmarks per subject. They're ordering human beings like laboratory equipment, purchasing women in bulk for drug experiments. IG Farben, the largest chemical conglomerate in Germany, has turned Auschwitz into a supplier. The prisoners who survive the trials are returned to inventory. Most don't survive. Bayer, a subsidiary of IG Farben, sends follow-up correspondence. They want to test sulfonamide compounds on infected wounds. The methodology is simple. Deliberately infect prisoners. Withhold treatment from control groups, measure how long it takes them to die. The scientific method perverted into systematic torture. Corporate executives negotiate directly with camp physicians. Contracts are signed. Invoices are processed. Accountants track expenses. This is genocide with a profit margin. But Klauberg's ambitions dwarf even corporate evil. He drafts a proposal that reveals the full scope of Nazi racial engineering. 20 injection stations, operating simultaneously, each staffed with trained gynecologists, each capable of sterilizing hundreds of women per day. His vision: mobile sterilization units mounted on trucks, gynecological tables, chemical supplies, portable equipment. Drive these units through occupied territories: Poland, Ukraine, Belarus. Park in village squares. Process the population: Slavic women, Jewish women, Roma women. Sterilize them all, village by village, town by town. An entire generation rendered infertile. He calculates capacity: 8,000 women per week, 400,000 per year. Within a decade, entire ethnic populations could be eliminated without firing a single bullet. Genocide through medicine, extermination through gynecology. Documents flutter across grim courtyards carried by cold winds. Factory whistles blow in the distance, the sound of industrial efficiency applied to mass murder. Prisoners move through the camp in conveyor-like columns reduced to production statistics. Stacks of medical files tied with twine accumulate in administrative offices, each page documenting another atrocity. Aerial views reveal the sprawling infrastructure: barbed wire labyrinths stretching for miles, crematorium smokestacks rising against gray skies, laboratory blocks arranged in precise rows. An entire economy built on death, powered by physicians, funded by Germany's most respected corporations. This is the collapse of the myth. The supposed superior Aryan science isn't innovation, it's industrialized barbarism. The master race executes genocide not through military brilliance, but through bureaucratic machinery and corporate partnership. Medicine has been weaponized, capitalism has been corrupted, morality has been obliterated, and then winter 1945 arrives. Soviet artillery rumbles in the distance. The Red Army advances from the east. Crematorium fires burn day and night as the SS desperately tries to destroy evidence. Documents are burned, witnesses are executed, buildings are demolished, but they can't erase it all. Liberation will reveal archives that shock the world, but justice will prove devastatingly incomplete. January 27, 1945, 3:00 p.m. Soviet soldiers breach Auschwitz's gates expecting a prison camp. They find something infinitely worse. In Block 10, surgical instruments still rest on metal trays, scalpels arranged by size syringes filled with cloudy chemicals, forceps crusted with dried blood. Medical files are stacked floor to ceiling, thousands of pages documenting experiments in meticulous detail. Diagrams of injection techniques, tables tracking sterilization success rates, photographs of victims before and after. Then the survivors emerge. Women who can barely walk, their reproductive organs destroyed by chemical burns. Men castrated for research, their bodies mutilated beyond repair. Children twins who watch their siblings die, stumbling forward with hollow eyes. Some are blind from Mengelé's dye injections. Others bear surgical scars across their entire bodies. A Soviet medic opens a filing cabinet. Inside, correspondence between IG Farben executives and SS doctors negotiating prices for human subjects. Invoices, purchase orders, payment receipts. Genocide documented with corporate efficiency. The world reacts with stunned disbelief. How could doctors, healers sworn to preserve life commit such atrocities? December 1946. Nuremberg, Germany. The doctor's trial convenes. 23 physicians and administrators stand accused of crimes against humanity. The evidence is overwhelming: signed orders, medical records, victim testimony, photographs that make seasoned prosecutors physically ill. 7 are sentenced to death by hanging. They're executed in 1948, their bodies cremated, ashes scattered in an unmarked location. But justice crumbles at the edges. Josef Mengele doesn't stand trial. He escapes. Through Austria into Italy, traveling with forged papers under the name Fritz Hollmann. In Genoa, he boards a ship to Argentina. For 3 decades, he lives freely, moving between Buenos Aires, Paraguay, and Brazil. He swims in the ocean, sunbathes on beaches, writes unrepentant memoirs justifying his experiments as necessary science. Nazi hunters pursue him for years. Close calls, near misses, but he always slips away. February 7, 1979, Bertioga, Brazil. Mengele drowns while swimming, a stroke, witnesses say. His body is buried under a false name. It takes 6 years before forensic investigators confirm his identity through dental records. The angel of death died peacefully, never facing justice, never expressing remorse. Horst Schumann flees to Sudan, then Egypt. He works as a sports medicine doctor in Cairo, the man who sterilized thousands with radiation, now treating athletes' injuries. Extradited to West Germany in 1966, he's released in 1970 due to poor health. He lives comfortably until 1983, dying in his sleep at age 82. Karl Klauberg is captured by the Soviets and imprisoned until 1955. Released in a diplomatic exchange, he returns to West Germany and immediately attempts to resume his medical practice. He contacts former colleagues, applies for university positions, brags about his pioneering work in sterilization techniques. Public outrage forces his arrest in 1955. But before trial, he dies in prison in 1957, heart attack officially. Some suspect suicide. Others whisper about scores settled by fellow inmates. The others, they scatter like ghosts. Some resume medical careers in post-war Germany, university professorships, private practices, research positions, former camp doctors treating patients who have no idea about their past. The corporations that funded the experiments, IG Farben, Bayer, Siemens, are briefly dissolved, then reconstituted under new names. The same executives, the same boardrooms, different letterhead. The world struggles to comprehend. Healers became executioners. White coats concealed monsters. The Hippocratic Oath meant nothing. Faded courtroom footage flickers, judges in robes, defendants standing motionless, translators speaking in monotone. Judges' gavels echo softly, the sound hollow and insufficient. Empty laboratories at Auschwitz fill with dust dancing in shafts of afternoon light. Slow pan across abandoned medical files, pages, yellowing, ink fading. The erasure is partial but persistent. Some perpetrators hang, others flee. Many simply continue living unpunished, unrepentant, unremembered. But from the ashes of this failure, humanity forges one enduring weapon against future atrocities. A code written in blood designed to ensure that medicine never again becomes a tool of genocide. In 1947, Nuremberg. In the shadow of Auschwitz's crematorium chimneys, humanity confronts a truth more devastating than any battlefield defeat: science, without conscience, becomes the engine of inhumanity. The judges at the doctor's trial face an impossible task. How do you legislate morality? How do you prevent educated, credentialed professionals from weaponizing their expertise against the vulnerable? Their answer becomes the Nuremberg Code. 10 principles, written not as academic guidelines, but as a gravestone warning carved from the bodies of victims. The first principle is absolute, unyielding, non-negotiable informed consent. No experiment without voluntary agreement, no research on prisoners, children, or the powerless. No exceptions, ever. The code isn't just law. It's humanity's promise that we will never forget what happens when that line is crossed. Fast forward to today. Modern hospital corridors are bright, clean, flooded with fluorescent light. Hands wash under running water in stainless steel sinks, the simple ritual of cleanliness that preceded every atrocity at Auschwitz. Ethics committees review research proposals with exhaustive scrutiny. Consent forms run to multiple pages, every risk disclosed, every right protected. Institutional review boards exist at every research facility on Earth. The Nuremberg Code reshaped modern bioethics, informed consent standards, and global human rights law. Its legacy extends through the Declaration of Helsinki, the Belmont Report, and every regulation designed to protect human subjects. It's taught in every medical school, cited in every research protocol, embedded in the foundation of modern medicine. But the shadow remains, and it always will, because the physicians who turned Auschwitz into a laboratory of death weren't monsters from nightmares. They were trained professionals, published researchers, university graduates with diplomas on their walls and families waiting at home. Men who once took the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm, and then systematically violated every sacred word. They didn't stumble into evil. They embraced it, documented it, perfected it, celebrated it. White coats once symbolized healing hope, the pinnacle of human compassion. At Auschwitz, those same white coats became shrouds concealing history's most calculated betrayal. The profession built on mercy became the instrument of annihilation. Their crimes reveal something more terrifying than individual sadism. They expose the fragility of morality itself. How quickly ethics collapse under ideology. How easily expertise becomes weaponized. How thin the line between healing and harm truly is. Slow fade to archival photographs. Faces of victims staring directly into the camera eyes that witnessed unimaginable horror survived to bear witness, then faded into history. Then photographs of perpetrators in their crisp white coats standing proudly beside their equipment. The distance between victim and executioner is impossibly, unbearably small. Final shot: Auschwitz at dusk. The crematorium chimneys stand empty against a darkening sky, monuments to industrial murder. Barbed wire stretches across the frame, cutting the image into fragments. The light fades. Silence descends. The world couldn't believe doctors turned Auschwitz into a laboratory of death. But they did. Their betrayal demands eternal vigilance, a recognition that morality is fragile, that expertise without ethics is catastrophe, that the oath to heal must be guarded relentlessly against the poison of ideology. We remember not to wallow in horror, but to stand guard over the future. Because the greatest atrocities aren't committed by monsters. They're committed by professionals who convince themselves that the ends justify the means. The Nuremberg Code is our defense, our reminder, our warning. Science must serve humanity, never hatred. Medicine must heal, never harm. And the line between the two is thinner than any of us dare believe.